Hi, this is Corey again at Camp Arowana for your Monday morning Devo. This last couple of weeks, I've spent some time rewatching a couple of movies and watching a new movie from the same series from when I was a kid. And that series was the Bill and Ted movies. And Bill and Ted, these movies were about a couple of guys that were kind of goofy doofuses. They wanted to be big music rock stars, and really they weren't that talented. And they were kind of a little bit of airheads, and kind of nobody had very high of expectations of them. They were like high school kids in the first movie, and they just weren't doing well. In fact, the whole starting of the series of the three movies is that they have a huge history exam coming up, and if they and their whole grade and their whole high school career depends upon them doing well on this one history test, and it's pretty much a guarantee that for sure Ted is not going to pass the test. And so what happens, it turns out that Bill and Ted are hugely important figures for all of humanity and history and space and time, and that their destiny is that they would be involved in the writing of a song that would unite humanity and would unite history and all of space and time. And that it was really important that Bill and Ted be able to write this song and play this song at a certain time in their lives, because it would change history for the world. And so a guy named Rufus from the future, hundreds and hundreds of years in the future, time travels back in time to ensure that Bill and Ted pass their history exam. And the way he does this is he loans them this time machine, which is a phone booth time machine, and they're able to travel through time. And Bill and Ted how they choose to do that is that they go to various points in history where these people are going to be in their exam, so that they can meet these people and they can learn about the events surrounding these people. And they end up taking these guys, these different historical figures, with them to their present, their future, and they end up just basically going on this adventure, time traveling kind of adventure. And so we see people like Beethoven, Genghis Khan, Joan of Arc, Mozart, and others that travel with Bill and Ted and have these goofy adventures. And we see them adjust to the different time that they're in, and they help Bill and Ted learn along the way as well. And one of the things that stuck out to me as I was rewatching these movies I hadn't watched them in many, many years, and was that these different historical figures were all known for something great. They were all people that we all know about. They all accomplished something, and who they are and their gifts and their role in history changed culture and life for many people, and they're recorded and known for us from here on out. And contrast that to Bill and Ted, who were basically these losers nobody expected anything from, except that somebody from the future told Bill and Ted that they were important and significant figures yet to be in the future, and they have no idea how or why at this point, other than they're supposed to write a song that would change history. So this was a reminder for me of some things that we see in Scripture. We see the prophet Jeremiah tell us that God has a plan for us. He has a plan and a purpose for us, and he knows that plan for us, each individually. We see in the Psalms, the psalmist writes and says that God has known us from when we were in the womb, and that God has a plan for us. God has set us apart. He knows us, every hair on our body and every individual part of us, different from everyone else, even before we're in the womb, even before we're born. God knows that important value of us as individuals. And then we see Jesus, and we see how Jesus interacts with each person that he interacts with. And Jesus takes care of the people that nobody else wants to deal with. Jesus heals people, and he heals their soul and their heart. And he comes alongside them, and he doesn't worry about whether they're clean or unclean, whether they're a Jew or Gentile, their past. And he just walks alongside them and takes care of them. So he finds value as well as Jeremiah and the psalmist representing God's value in each person, each individual. And so it seems like Bill and Ted they seemed like the last expected. Even their own parents didn't expect much from them. Ted's dad was very disappointed in his son most of the time, up until the very end of the third movie. Does he finally realize that all these things that his son has said about his time traveling adventures are true, and he realizes the value of Ted's calling and his destiny with the song and the music and the band that the Wild Stallions, that he and Bill have invested in their whole lives, because the third movie takes place like 30 years later. I also watched an interview just this week with George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars, who also worked on Indiana Jones and other projects, American Graffiti. And some people, it was just like some kind of big gathering, and there was an audience asking him questions. And they kind of asked him, they didn't actually show the question in the interview, but they asked George Lucas, like, how did he get where he was? How did he become George Lucas? Where did he end up? How did he get here to be this legendary figure? And basically his answer to them was to follow their passions. And he mentioned how he had several different passions as a kid and as a young adult. He was interested in anthropology, and he was interested in some technology kind of things, race cars and building machines and stuff. And he liked photography. And all of these things with just a few, and he summarized more than I'll share with you, but you can find the interview on YouTube, and it's pretty good. But he just followed things as opportunities presented themselves in his life. And if they fit in with what he was passionate about and just interested in, he followed them. And as all those little puzzle pieces came together, it led him down the path to where he became who we know as George Lucas. He ended up getting into filmmaking and doing the things that he did, just because he followed the things that he was interested in. He had a lot of pressure from others to do what they thought he should do with his life, and just the logical sense of what society told him he maybe should do with his life. And instead he chose to do what he enjoys doing, and he chose to follow his passion. And I just was thinking about that, and I was thinking how God is the one that gives us these passions of our hearts. God is the one that designs us, just like the psalmist and Jeremiah mentioned. And God is the one that puts those passions in our hearts and directs us to the path that he leads us to. And we see that with Bill and Ted, and that they were almost hopelessly nobodies in their lives. And they come across all these really important major historical figures who impacted their life just by having this little adventure with them. And so to the point to where Bill and Ted followed their passion with their music, followed their passion with all the time traveling and the adventures that they had. And eventually along with their daughters in the third movie we see, is when their destiny finally comes to its fruition, and they end up changing and saving the universe in all space and time through uniting everyone through this song. And they had that passion, and they followed it faithfully for all those years, even when everyone else thought they were never going to accomplish anything. They were stuck in their high school band days, and they were just going nowhere, and they were kind of losers still. And but they stuck with their passion, and they accomplished what their destiny was. So I was just thinking about it, and just realizing God has designed us. He has given us a purpose, and he's given us a passion that lines up with that purpose. So I just want to encourage you to follow that passion, follow what the Lord puts on your heart, because he has a plan for you. He has a purpose, and he will use you to accomplish those things just by being you and who he made you to be. Thank you, and have a good day, and be excellent to one another.
Party on, dudes!
Excellent!